Your favorite wanderlust girl here in Germany, Vanessa MW. Today we are going to be talking about what it means to move to Dubai, which is part of the United Arab Emirates and really has a reputation of being luxury, yacht filled, and somehow not as friendly to every traveler. So we're gonna get into the nitty gritty about what it takes to live and thrive in Dubai, how women can do it, what your career looks like when you're doing that as well. And I'm doing that thanks to Lipstick and Luggage, aka Miss Kelsey. She is on her way, trying to figure out how to request to join the live, I'm sure. I see you're in the chat, Kelsey, so it's the little camera button at the bottom where the comments are. Right to the left of the question bubble. There we go. Perfect. Let's do this thing. I'm going to wave to everyone in the group. Hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining another live. If you haven't already been able to tell, I've been doing lives with different people all over the globe. My intention is to remove whatever preconceived barriers there are in people's minds about who gets to live abroad, what countries are more or less welcoming. We're going to see a wide range of North Americans from all over the globe, so you know that you can do the exact same thing. Uh-oh. Video isn't allowing her to join. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Number 2. Send request. Oh, I got to send a request to her. Look at me on Instagram. So today's conversation is all about Dubai. Typically, I recommend that all my single ladies, my career ladies, that they go to Dubai because it really is such an incredible city. It feels like adult Disneyland. There's 0% income tax. So it's an easy way to build wealth quickly and to create a life for yourself and wealth for yourself that's going to carry you through several generations. And I'm hoping that the Dubai or the Emirati internet is not blocking lives full stop, because this is actually something that people struggle with in the Middle East. There are certain requirements about what sort of video and call functionalities you have. So you can't use Skype, for example. Several different platforms struggle to connect in Dubai. It's really just like the local carriers that dominate that industry. So hold on, she's on her way. A question would be nice to hear what language requirements and skills are most sought out in Dubai. So from my personal knowledge, the professional language in Dubai is English. So we have an office in Dubai because our Dubai team members service all of the Middle East, East Asia, Southeast Asia, some of the Russian-speaking bloc of Europe. The general language is English in Dubai. Maybe Kelsey might disagree with me, but we'll see when she gets here. I think she's downloading a VPN so she can connect. My good friend Atia is suggesting that you download CyberGhost VPN. She's actually based in Dubai as well, so she would be the authority. Okay, hopefully that works. We have another question of how do I get over the moral qualm of working in Dubai? Yeah, you're here.
Yay, it worked. Sorry, I was having issues with the VPN.
Do not worry. Did you just download it right now for the conversation?
Yeah, or yeah, I was having issues with the one I currently had. I don't know. Sometimes it goes in and out, but I'm glad I was able to join.
Us too, because I get a lot of questions about what it's like living in the UAE, what's it like living in Dubai. So you're gonna answer all those questions for us.
All right, I'll try my best.
Perfect. Could you give yourself a little introduction so my followers know exactly who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
Right. So I am currently living in Dubai, obviously. I moved here about 5 years ago. I became cabin crew with an airline that's based here. And in those 5 years, I got to travel all around the world to over 70 countries. I think I'm at 73 now. So yeah, I was working with an airline, and then unfortunately, because of the pandemic, I was made what we call redundant. So I ended up moving back to Canada for a few months in August of 2020. And I recently came back in January 2021. I found a different job. I'm currently working at a university here in communications, and I'm really enjoying it so far. So yeah, aviation is my passion. I really enjoy communications and of course travel. So that's a lot of what I share on my Instagram feed.
Yeah, and I love how diverse your Instagram feed is. So it's not just like brand partnerships, but it's also culture and projects and things that you're passionate about. So
Thank you.
I
Yeah.
love following you.
Oh, thank you so much. I enjoy following you too. I noticed you're living in Germany, and that's probably one of my favorite places to go.
Oh, well, come on down, girl. Like, we'd love to have you.
I was supposed to plan. I was planning a trip actually in June, but unfortunately, because of the situation, I won't look like I'll get to the chance to do that. But that's okay.
Yeah, you don't want to be here, to be honest. Everything's closed.
Really?
Like, yeah, we have a
Fair.
curfew now, which is really
Oh
weighing on
wow.
people's souls.
I
It's
can
been a
imagine.
long year and a half.
Wow.
But that's okay. We're in it together to make sure the most vulnerable are
Positive
protected, and
vibes.
we are trying our best to remain calm and sane. Um,
Aw.
could you tell me a little bit about your life in Canada, what that was like? Because you have a very interesting background. And then what inspired you to say,
Yeah.
not this anymore, let's go to Dubai?
Yeah, so I never actually really like dreamed of moving to Dubai. It wasn't even really in the back of my head. I mean, I was focused on getting my undergraduate degree in political science and health studies. I was heavily involved in politics, and I always thought I was going to end up being a politician or a policy writer. And I did do a bit of work with that, but I decided that it wasn't really my passion anymore. So I went back to school and did a postgraduate degree in public relations, and I was introduced to fashion, aviation, a bunch of different things. And my grandfather actually, he had always been involved with the military. He was a veteran. So I was always kind of around the aviation sort of field in that respect. So one day I was actually a public relations practitioner, let's say. I was working in downtown Toronto, you know, enjoying my life. And then I was like, you know, I'm 24, I have a full-time job. Like, is this it? Is this my life? Like, and then the opportunity came to join an airline, and that's when I moved all the way out here. And believe it or not, I didn't really do much research before I came out here. I just took the opportunity and kind of rolled with it, and things kind of worked out. And I'm quite happy with where I am right now.
Yeah, that's just so like typical life. Everything that you plan goes down the toilet and you just follow your heart and you
Exactly.
suddenly
Yeah.
land in a different country. And
Yeah.
could we touch on this a little bit? Because it's just so interesting to me. You're a
Yeah.
former pageant queen, aren't you?
I am, yes. I got involved in pageants when I was younger. When I was in high school, I was bullied a lot. I was, you know, that tall, skinny girl with like the curly hair, and I just kind of stood out, but not necessarily in the best way. So I
Mm-hmm.
was a target. And it was a way for me to kind of put myself out there and just gain confidence in myself. And I learned a bunch of different things. And so I got involved when I was about, I think it was 17 when I did my first pageant. It was Miss Teen Canada at the time, Canada World. I think it's changed. But yeah, so that's where my kind of love of pageants started, was around that age. And I recently went back when I was made redundant. I took the opportunity to enter Miss Universe Canada unexpectedly. Yeah,
Shut
I
up,
decided to
really?
enter. Yeah, it was my last year because of the age. So when I was made redundant, I was like, you know, as upset as I was to have to start over in a way, I saw it as an opportunity to, you know, take my positivity and my platform of wanting to empower women to Canada. And so it was an amazing opportunity. I ended up finishing in the top 10. And I just shared today that I am officially Miss Charm Canada 2021. So I will be representing my country. I will be representing Canada in Vietnam on October 11th. And I'm so excited to be on the international stage. So everything
Wow.
happens for a reason.
Agreed, agreed. And let this be testimony to, first of all, women are so powerful in so many different packages, sizes,
Yeah,
heights, weights, everything. Like,
yeah,
don't pigeonhole us into one thing. And
I
two,
agree
you
with that.
can really access travel in so many different ways through aviation, through pageantry, through
Yeah,
working at a school in communication. So
yeah.
there's lots of ways to weasel yourself outside of your own country.
Exactly, exactly. And I loved moving here. I mean, we're going to talk a lot about Dubai, but it's so multicultural.
Mm,
And, you know, when I was raised in a city called London, Ontario, it's not the biggest city, it's not the smallest city, but there wasn't a lot of culture that I was surrounded with growing up. It
mhm.
wasn't until I went to university a couple hours outside of it where I was introduced to all these different cultures. But when I moved to Dubai, it was like 10 times, 100 times that even. There's someone here from almost every country. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is bananas. That's why I try to recommend that all of my single young ladies go to Dubai because there's just so many different types of people
So
and
many different
partners.
nationalities, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's talk about working in Dubai. So
Sure.
do you speak other languages? Is there like a major language that people should work
It
in when
definitely,
they come?
yeah, definitely is helpful, I feel, if you do have another language.
Mm,
Unfortunately, you know, Canada, we do have French and English, and I did learn some French growing up, but I wouldn't go as far as to say that I'm fluent. It is helpful, at least in the line of work that I was in, being a flight
mhm.
attendant or cabin crew, as we call it here. There is a lot of opportunity for you, or a lot of benefits rather, to speaking a different language.
Absolutely.
Being
And so
able to
you would
communicate.
say that speaking English is perfectly fine to live and work in Dubai.
Actually, yes, a lot of jobs here that the expats actually end up taking on are
Mhm,
predominantly because they are English speakers. So
mhm.
it's not an obstacle at all. As long as you can speak English, you'll be fine.
Yeah, that's what I try to encourage people to consider if they are just English speakers to move to Dubai as well, because the language
Yeah,
barrier is just not as high and intense. In Germany, it can
yeah,
be very exhausting. And,
yeah. Well, like English and Arabic are the main languages, and I feel like at least when I was applying to work for the airline that I worked for the last couple of years, a lot of people thought you had to speak Arabic. It's a common
mm,
misconception.
mm, absolutely. And how is living in Dubai during Ramadan? Because there's a lot of rules that,
Yeah,
like, me as a
the whole
Mexican American had to learn, and I'm sure you as a Canadian, that was
yeah.
probably different to what you've experienced. How is that like?
Yeah, it's really changed actually over the last couple years. I know for a fact this year, for example, it used to be customary for restaurants to cover up during the day. So putting up, not having people sit outside to eat their meals, having them come into the restaurant, having the curtains drawn or blacked out. This year, it wasn't a requirement. So you'll actually, a lot of the tourists, for example, downtown Dubai, they won't have to necessarily um, go inside to eat or consume beverages. As well as you're aware, it is a predominantly Muslim country, and a lot of the clothing that we wear is more modest as opposed to what you would see in Western countries. So for me, out of respect, I always try to cover up without going into too much detail. But yeah, it's just a respect thing. But in terms of being limited on what you're able to do, not so much.
Yeah. So I went to a outdoor like pool party called Zero Gravity when I was there. Are you familiar?
Yeah.
Okay, so there were ladies, like local ladies in thong bikinis, which like blew my mind. It was obviously not during Ramadan, but
Mhm.
could you speak a little bit about the flexibility of
Yeah.
women in Dubai, whether you agree with my statement or not?
Yeah. Of course, I think there's a lot of misconceptions. Now, Dubai is very open now. It welcomes people from all over the world. So, in terms of if we're talking about specifically dress code, like you would have seen at Zero Gravity, you know, it's, I don't want to say tourist area, but that is a place that a lot of tourists like to go. And they do have certain dress codes in certain places when you visit Dubai. But if you're at a resort, for example, yeah, it's totally fine to wear whatever you'd like to the beach.
I went to the Jeremiah. How do you pronounce this?
Jumeirah.
Jumeirah.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the Middle East, the weekends are different, right?
Yes. Yes.
Friday and Saturday are
So
their weekend, and Sunday's a work
yes.
day.
Yeah. So
Okay.
your Friday night is our Thursday night.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And on Sunday, the Jeremiah, no, I said that wrong again.
Jumeirah.
Jumeirah, there we go.
Yeah.
My Arabic is not very good.
Neither
They
is
had
mine, don't worry.
a Sunday sale where it was 120 US dollars. I got a full lunch, a massage, and spa and beach access for
Yeah.
$120. So I always try to
Yeah.
make sure I'm in Dubai for that Sunday for that deal that I fly around the world for. Um, Tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about working in Dubai. Do you feel like it's different to Canada? Do you still have all the same liberties, autonomies, freedom
Yeah.
to express yourself?
Yeah. I mean, well, we're on Ramadan hours. I forgot to actually mention that. So a normal work day actually for me would be from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So our days
Mhm,
are a little bit longer, an hour longer than what I'm used to.
mhm,
But for Ramadan, because of the holy month, they reduce the hours. So I'm actually working from about 9 till about 3 p.m. just
mhm.
for the about the month. Yeah, 30 days or so. So that's just kind of an example, the extended workday. But in terms of the actual work itself, it's a very nice environment. I don't find it to be quite different, other than
Mhm.
we do have to remember to be respectful in terms of, the clothing we wear, how we speak, and things like that.
Yeah. I lived in China for 2 years, so
Okay.
understanding the respect of the Chinese government and what
Yeah.
is appropriate for foreigners to be saying when they are a guest in a country is something to be
Exactly.
mindful of. But do
Yes.
you feel like it impacts your day-to-day decision making or lifestyle?
I wouldn't say too much in that respect. I mean, I personally feel as though I'm going to work almost like in Canada. Nothing really has changed for me, aside
Mhm.
from the fact that, again, it is a predominantly Muslim country. So therefore, I just have to keep that in the back of my head when, I go to, let's say, express an opinion, or during the holy month, I go to, walk down the street. I'm going to be a little more respectful in terms of the clothing that I'm going to wear. But other than that, I don't really feel as though there is a huge difference.
Mhm. And let's talk about safety a little bit because a lot of the young ladies that I coach and work with, they're already one nervous to move abroad by themselves or with their partners and family.
Mm-hmm.
But the Middle East in particular seems to draw a lot of concerns about personal safety. What's been
Mm-hmm.
your experience in Dubai?
I personally have been very, very fortunate. I've knock on wood, I've never had anything happen. It is a predominantly a very safe country. There is not a lot of crime that goes on. In terms of police presence, let's say, it is very safe. You always say the police out and about. I don't really know what else to say to that other than it is very safe, and I've never really felt as though I needed to be concerned in that regard.
I love that. I love that so much. I never feel that way in Los Angeles. That is I'm from LA, and that is the only
Oh,
place I've ever been held up at gunpoint. Nowhere else in
oh,
the world. Yeah.
ooh,
Yeah. In my
wow.
own
I'm so
home
sorry to hear that.
city, it happened, but anywhere else, like the rice fields of Cambodia, like living on the
Yeah,
Syrian border, nowhere else has this happened to me.
that's insane to think of. Wow.
Agreed. Well,
Wow.
you're
Yeah, no,
Canadian,
nothing like
so.
that happened here. I know, because in Western culture, like as soon as you say Middle East, they're like, ooh, like that's different. And so when I even, originally spoke to my parents about the move, they were like, oh, like, we respect your decision, we'll support you, but the Middle East, like, why there? And they were really intrigued about it. And it wasn't until I actually fully came over here that I understood. I'm like, I don't understand why we have this perception. And I'm quite happy that I did come over here and I did have this experience because it really opened my eyes.
Yeah, it's important to have those self experiences before you make judgments on people, culture,
Yeah.
practices. Because what we see on television is hyper sensualized, and I
Yeah.
just don't think a healthy reflection of any culture around the world. I mean, America is like always being dragged in the news, but there are decent people there, I promise. Um, Could you walk me through like day to day what your life is like? Because I think people just
Yeah.
imagine you're on a yacht in your own villa pool or something like that.
That is something I get to do every once in a while. No, but typically, again, you touched on it yourself. Our work week is quite different. So our Friday night is actually, so your Friday night is our Thursday night. So during the week, that's Sunday to Thursday, I'm obviously working the 9 to 3 during Ramadan, or 9 to 6. If I have time, I go to the gym. I finish any assignments. I like to blog. I like to do, photo shoots when I have the time. But I am focused on a lot of projects outside of work. Dubai has amazing opportunities. A lot of my friends get to do modeling. They do a lot of blogging, social media. In terms of entertainment, there is so much here in Dubai. There are so many different places to eat. You have food from all around the world. There are so many amazing tourist attractions now. They just recently built the Dubai Frame. I'm not sure if you've seen it. Of course, you have the Burj Khalifa. There's so many malls. There's so much to do here. So even though I'm working during the week, on those weekends, I do like to go to, on a yacht if I have the opportunity, or a beach club.
Yeah.
But there is so much to do. My point is that it's never boring.
Yeah, which is so important when you're young and like willing and able to go outside. I feel like I was born 30 and now I'm just like 65. So that time of yachting it up outside of gravity is past for me, but that's fine.
To be honest, I don't really go to beach clubs very often. I try to keep myself busy in other aspects. So I just recently became a mentor with a company called Intellect. So a lot of the free time that I have is focused on other products as opposed to zero gravity.
But we won't judge anyone who does prioritize
No,
zero
of course,
gravity.
no judgment, no judgment, no judgment. No.
None at all. And how have you been able to make friends in Dubai? Because that's a big concern for people, like getting a community.
There's actually a really big expat community. A lot of my friends, because I worked for an airline, we had all sorts of different nationalities. There were over 120 different nationalities, actually. So I had the opportunity to meet people through my job, through my work, through flying. Because when we do fly, we don't always fly with the same people. So you're constantly seeing new faces, getting on with a lot of different individuals. So I've met people largely through work and through the expat communities.
And
as well
is that through?
media.
Oh, okay. So you just DM people like me.
No, but you find a lot of people here who have like similar interests as you. So if you're into fashion, let's say, you can totally find people here that are willing to work with you in fashion. That's just one example. Travel, it unites a lot of people. So when you go out and you socialize, you'll meet all sorts of people from all over the world.
And do you think that this is it for you? Like this is the place you're going to grow old, you're going to raise your kids, if that's something that you want to do?
Well, never say never. But I've learned like throughout my life that you can't really plan anything. You can have a general idea of what you want or what to expect, but I honestly thought I was going to be a flight attendant for the next couple of years. I was going to go and do corporate communications and aviation and all this other exciting stuff. And then, of course, with the pandemic, as a lot of people were affected by it, that kind of changed my plans, and I'm sure it changed a lot of other people. So I'm happy to be here right now. I'm not sure if I will stay here, in the next 5, 10, 15 years, let's say. But I'm going with the flow, and I'm enjoying it so far.
Oh, you're so flexible. I'm like such a neurotic control freak. I'm just like, I need a plan.
I used to be like that though. And that's the crazy part. Like when I became a flight attendant, you have to be prepared to kind of pick up your suitcase when they need you and go wherever they, send you in the world. So I guess that's kind of how I've learned to adapt in the sense.
Well, I tout myself as a frequent traveler, so I should be able to do this better. But I must have been way worse as a child. So this is progress. Let's talk briefly about how do people find jobs in Dubai? I know a lot of people have some interesting questions. And sorry, my phone is on dark mode, so I can't actually read any of the questions because they're in black text. So if you can drop it in the comment section, that would be great. But sorry, Kelsey, go for it.
All right, yeah. So the opportunity that I came across with the airline, I actually found through their careers website. So if you really are interested in finding jobs in Dubai, I definitely recommend that you go and you research what kinds of companies are out here.
Mm.
Aviation was one of the biggest job markets, let's say, here for expats when Emirates was flying a lot. So yeah, I would recommend going to, doing your research, finding out the companies that are here, and then checking out their careers pages. The second job opportunity that I got here, working in communications, I actually found through LinkedIn. So a lot of businesses here do actually recruit through LinkedIn and other sorts of recruitment websites. So that is an option for you as well. There are a lot of expat positions available in Dubai. I know recently with the pandemic, it has been quite a struggle for a lot of people. But as the economy starts to pick up again, as people start to travel again and go in and out of the UAE, more opportunities are becoming available, and it's exciting to see that happen.
Mm-hmm. Has the salary bands or what they're willing to pay people decreased because of the pandemic? We had a question on that.
Yeah, actually, myself personally, when I was working for the airline that I worked for, I was only making a certain amount. I'll be honest, I was making about, give or take, depending on my flying hours, I was making about 10,000 dirham. I'm not quite sure what that would be now in Canadian currency or in euros, but I feel like that is probably the minimum in the research that I've done. I've been very fortunate that the current position that I have is a little more secure in that regard. So I am making a little bit more. But again, it's a completely different job, different industry. So it really depends on that, right?
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember too that there's a different tax structure. So making the equivalent of 10,000 dirhams in the UAE would be so different to Germany because we're taxed at upwards of 42% sometimes.
Yeah.
So
I didn't realize also, like, thankfully, the UAE and Canada have an agreement, so it is a tax-free salary that I do currently have. But I understand if you're making over a certain amount and you're from, let's say, the US, you will be expected to pay some tax on it, I believe. So it really depends on your country and the agreement that they have.
Yeah, we talk about taxes a lot here on Wander Onwards because I have gotten myself
in Canada right now, and I'm like so frustrated.
Welcome to the game, girl. I have assets in 3 different countries. I've wrapped myself up in all of the mistakes. So if you want to talk about tax content, you are in the right place. We are coming towards
my mom, like, Mom, can you do that for me?
Oh, bless. Thank God for mom,
She's
though.
so
I
sweet.
also rely on my mom loads.
She's so
We're coming to the end of our live at this time, but I wanted to ask you one last question. If there was a young woman who is thinking about moving to Dubai, what would be your top piece of advice for her?
Wow, it's a good question. My top piece of advice would be to make sure that this is something that you really want to do. Because when you do pick up and you move to a new country, I remember the first time that I stepped foot on the soil here that I burst into tears because I didn't know what it was that I was getting myself into. But I trusted myself. I knew this is the decision that I wanted to make, and I carried through with it. And I'm so glad that I did. So that would be my advice to that individual.
Yeah, and trust that you're resilient. Trust that you're resilient enough to like fend for yourself, to create success for yourself. I think women are always told that we're somehow inferior or weaker than other sexes and individuals, but we are powerful forces to be reckoned with. We are creative. We have shiny hair. We will not be ignored.
Amen, girl. Amen.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Yeah. Do you have anything that you're working on right now that you want to let people know about?
In terms of what I'm working on, I'm going to be focusing now on the Miss Charm pageant. That's again happening October in Vietnam. So I'm going to be trying to work on some partnerships. I'm going to be training for that. A lot of people don't know how much work actually goes in preparing for a pageant. So I'm going to be, getting a personal trainer, getting someone to help me with my walk and my choreography, finding designers for my dresses, things like that. So
that sounds like a lot of work.
It is, but I'm excited.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much again for being on the show. I will repost the replay for everyone who's just tuning in, and you can watch this at any other time. But thank you so much for taking the time to speak to my
Thank you
community
for
and to
having me.
just chat with me. I will call you when I'm in Dubai. Like, this is a
Yes,
friendship
girl,
now.
please do. I'm looking forward to your visit.
Okay, thanks so much. Have a wonderful evening, Kelsey, and I will see you on the internet.
Great. Thanks, girl. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.